In landscape photography, one of the critical artistic decisions we have to make is whether to capture an image in black and white or colour. Both options offer distinct advantages and evoke different emotions. So in this video, I'll be discussing some of the considerations I work through when composing a black and white photo. The first step for me when considering a black and white image is to examine the interplay of light and shadow within the scene. I think colour plays a significant role in shaping our perception of light and shadow. Warm sunlight can infuse a vibrant glow and cool tones can add depth to the shadows. Therefore, when removing colour, I feel the scene should, possess its own inherent contrast, if you like, such as tones, textures and shapes. The colour scene can have contrast in terms of its colour, but it's far more difficult to rely on this to make a striking black and white image. So for example, if we have a green field and a blue sky, it could make a nice photo in colour, but with a mono conversion, those two colours would look almost identical, about mid-grey, meaning the image would lack contrast altogether. So whenever I'm looking for a black and white photo, my first thoughts are texture, shape, light and shadow. Wow, this is absolutely amazing, this location here. This amazing slots we've got here heading out to sea. Some wonderful rocky textures and craggy boulders down there at the bottom. These grasses in the foreground too make quite a nice texture, and I've just noticed some wildflowers a little bit further down there too. So I think this is definitely our first shot. Let's get the gear out the bag. What a cool spot this is. So I'm going to frame this up using the standard zoom lens, and I'm about 17mm, and I'm going to focus on these wildflowers here in the foreground because they offer great contrast to these black rocks here stretching out to the sea. I'm not going to include too much sky, there's not a huge amount of detail out there, so you don't need to worry too much about that, but yeah, focusing on all of these wonderful craggy rocks. Now what I'm going to do, and what I always do when I shoot in black and white, because I think it's more intentional, is I convert my picture profile to a mono profile so I can see in black and white on the back of my screen. And it is a game changer really. If you can see exactly the tones and shadows that you're getting, it makes such a big difference to how you approach the composition. So that's what I'm doing. I've got a few options on my camera, but what I like to do is choose a very neutral, flat black and white profile. So that's what I've got. Mine's just set up in mono. Easy to do, easy to switch. And that shows me exactly the shadows, the texture, the light, the shape, the form, everything that I'm going to get in the photo. And it just makes composing your photo so much easier. For me to be able to take this shot, I'm going to have to take it in 2 images because I'm going to have to focus stack because I'm so close to my foreground interest. I'm not able to get the rocks in the background, even at f11. I don't want to stop the aperture down any more than that. So I'm going to set the tripod up, take 2 images, focus stack these images together, just a quick simple blend in Photoshop. So it took me an absolute age to get the tripod set up. Got the legs splayed out, tilted forward. I've got the back leg dug into the embankment behind me. Ridiculous setup, but it works, I think. And I've managed to get the daisies as a prominent part of the foreground, situated just towards the left, which adds a little balance because we've got the crack in the cliff face towards the right. So I think we've got that sort of diagonal balance in the scene, which I think works quite well. The light's just come out now, which is not what we want. I want that diffused light. I don't want a dark shadow on this side and a bright cliff face on that side, so I might just have to wait for that diffusion to come back again, but that's not a problem. The f11, 30th of a second, it's given me enough exposure time to make sure I freeze any motion within these daisies because I want them tack sharp. So I'm just going to wait for that light to diffuse, grab this shot, and then we'll move on and see if we can find something else. Here we go. Focusing on the daisies, 2-second timer. Focusing on the cliff face. Yeah, I think it works. Wow, it's super bright now, and I thought that last location was absolutely fantastic. But I've stumbled across this, and I've got to be honest, I'm kind of speechless. What an incredible spot this is. I didn't even know this existed. It's the first time I've been up here. Just look at that. Absolutely ridiculous. Whether there's a photo here or not, I don't know, but I'm certainly going to give it a try. When I'm in the process of composing a black and white image, I try not to disregard colour altogether, as it's possible to use the colour in the raw file to manipulate the tones of the black and white image in post-production, very similar to using a lens filter if shooting with black and white film. After a black and white conversion in Lightroom, we can adjust the luminance of a particular colour channel. For example, if we've got a blue sky, we can drag the blue slider down, making those blue colours darker in the raw file. This would be similar to adding an orange or yellow filter to the lens when exposing a sheet of film. What an incredible location this is. It's just, I've spent like 10 minutes here now just looking at it, just trying to work out what I could actually do, because yes, just such an awe-inspiring, breathtaking piece of geology. It's just absolutely incredible. I've looked on OS Maps and apparently it's called Huntsman's Leap. I don't think I would want to leap across there anytime soon, but I think potentially I have got an image here. I've tried various different compositions, just, with looking through the back of the viewfinder here, but I think to get the scale of this, I need to show a bit of foreground. So that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to frame a shot up here, possibly 4x5, with a little bit of this foliage in the foreground, looking straight down into the canyon at this, just incredible piece of rock. So I think to get the perspective I'm looking for, I've got to set up the tripod pretty high, maybe even the highest it'll actually go, so I can get looking straight down to the bottom of the canyon there. Otherwise I can't see those rocks at the bottom. I'm hoping that light's going to become a little bit diffused as well in a second or two, because again we've got the contrast here with a dark side and the lighter side. So yeah, once the diffusion comes over again, which I think it will help that. Settings wise, I'm at f11. I've bumped my ISO up a little bit to 250 just to get 1/20th of a second, and the reason for that is these grasses are moving in the foreground and I just want to be able to freeze them. This time, because we're a bit further away from our foreground subject, at f11 I'm able to get everything in sharp focus, so that's cool. No focus stacking required for this image. So yeah, just a waiting game now. What an absolutely incredible spot. Basically what I've done in terms of my composition is I've framed the slot up right in the middle of the frame, which is pretty cool, and that allows me to get quite a strong, striking composition. So guys, I set this shot up here when we had some really nice light hitting these rocks, and that's what really caught my eye, and I was hoping that light was going to come back again, but it's definitely not going to. There's so much cloud now out on the horizon that there's no chance of us getting any more light on these rocks. But I thought it'd be a good exercise to take this shot because it really demonstrates the difference between contrast, shape, texture, form, shadow, light, all of those things that you really need, the key ingredient really for a black and white image. Because this image works okay as a colour image, we've got the green grass here, we've got that beautiful deep blue ocean and some nice pastel tones in the sky, and it works well because we've got that colour contrast. But when you convert it to mono, everything becomes very, very bland, all pretty much mid-tone greys, and there's no contrast there whatsoever, so it looks flat. If we had that light hitting these rocks in the foreground, we would get the interplay between light and shadow, which would bring this scene to life. What I'll do, I'll put both of these images up on the screen for you to take a look at so you can see the difference between the colour one and the black and white one. Neither are great images, I have to say, without the light, but I'll give you an idea of what I mean. With colour photography, my aim is often to capture a natural look that mimics how I see things with my own eyes. However, black and white presents a completely different reality, doesn't it? And that allows me to break free from those constraints. I'm more inclined to embrace very long exposures, for example, when working in black and white compared to when I shoot in colour. Also, I often find that black and white images thrive on days when we've got a clear blue sky, as the simplicity sometimes helps to balance a composition that might otherwise be dominated by texture. If you're looking for some more ideas about taking landscape photos on blue sky days, I highly recommend checking out the video that's up here somewhere. And I do hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please consider hitting the thumbs up button because that really helps me out. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, then why not consider subscribing. Until next week guys, take care and I'll see you soon.